So what we want to do to start this part creation process is we want to place a valve in the drawing that's going to be as close as possible to the part that we are trying to create. So I'm just going to set this valve to a generic 6-inch groove check valve. I'm going to select this part and then go to the parts database and select add new parts book item. By doing that, the program is going to recognize the element that I have selected, and it's going to automatically populate data based on that selection. So this gives me a quick starting point instead of trying to define something from scratch. Now I'm going to change the manufacturer to Tyco, and then in the description I can type in this particular model, CV. I'm just going to call it a CV1. We're not necessarily going to make this fire riser version.
No. Yeah.
So, and you can type this in any, any arrangement that you like. I'm just going to put a parentheses and call this a CV-1. Oops, let me make sure my caps are on, CV-1. And then I'm going to leave all of these sizes. Now, I don't know exactly what, so it's got 2 through 12, 2 through 12, perfect. So I don't need to necessarily adjust. I'm going to get rid of that 5, I have no idea why that's there. 2, 2.5, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, that looks appropriate. 2, 2.5, 3, 4, they do have a 5. I don't want to make that part though, so I'm not going to bother with it. Now let's say that for some reason, there was an 1.5 inch size available for this part. Well, it's not an option here. Not a big deal. We can add additional sizes later, even though they're not available during this step. We can add sizes after this step. So I've got my description typed in, I've got my manufacturer specified. If I want to assign a finish here, if it's red, I can assign a finish. I can even adjust the color if I want it to be red. Okay, now that I've got all this information dialed in, I click on Create Part. Okay, so once we've clicked on the Create Part button, now we have an option here to adjust in more detail specific dimensional data, hydraulic loss values, size data. We can add short descriptions, user descriptions. Usually you're not going to need to adjust these. Short descriptions are really only related to like welded outlets that will populate on stock listing reports. So this selected item code, this is what I was talking about. When you select user part, the program will generate an item code based on a user part association. A manufacturer part would generate a different item code here that could create data issues in your database file. Okay, so this is how the program is going to associate this valve with these. The manufacturer is correct, the category, the subcategory, subtype, finish, and then this is the description that will populate. On the item size data tab, here is where we can add sizes. So like I said, if there was a size available for this particular product that didn't populate in that first step, here's where we could add a size. So if 1.5 inches is available, we could navigate to 1.5 inches and add an 1.5 inch size to this part. This is where we also have the ability to edit hydraulic curves. I don't necessarily recommend using hydraulic curves for elements that aren't backflow preventers. I would much rather recommend using equivalent length values. The program is going to handle that better, and it's going to be a lot easier to enter this data. Editing a hydraulic curve, you have to enter multiple points and multiple sizes to develop a curve, and it's a lot more tedious to add these hydraulic curve points for each size than it is to just specify an equivalent length value for each size. But it is an option. And then we can obviously delete sizes. If there's a size that we don't want, I'm just going to get rid of the 1.5 inches that I had previously added. We have the ability to specify part numbers. So if there's if the manufacturer has specific part numbers for various sizes, we could enter that information in this tab here. This legacy part number, probably don't need to change that. This is just pulled over from the generic part that we cloned. Although this legacy part number, if HydraCAD or HydraList has a specific part number for this specific manufacturer part, this is where you would enter that information. So that if you export an HLF file for a fabricator or a vendor, they could link this HydraList part number to your custom created part. Okay, so item outlet data. Now this is where we specify dimensional values for this device, as well as the angle. Angle is important. So almost every element, every valve, every fitting has at least 2 outlets. T's obviously have 3 outlets, where you would have a run 1, run 2, so it would be an inlet, outlet, and then the side outlet would be classified as an outlet. It would populate run 1, run 2, outlet 1. Elbows, run 1, run 2. Inlet, outlet, valves, run 1, run 2, inlet, outlet. Straight pattern, the angle difference should always be 180. 0 angle on the inlet, 180 angle on the outlet. If this was a 90, that would be telling the program that there is a 90-degree turn, that the discharge or the outlet is oriented 90 degrees from the inlet. So check valves are straight patterns, so 0, 180, 0, 180. This stuff is all appropriate, which is another great thing about selecting a part to clone versus creating one from scratch. Creating one from scratch, who knows what values are going to automatically populate here. Cloning a part, the program is going to pull data from that part, and then we just have to make minor modifications instead of verifying every value. So, as far as takeouts go, what we want to do now is start specifying takeouts based on the manufacturer's dimensional chart. So, for 2-inch, our A dimension, 6.75. So what we want to do is we want to divide 6.75? Yep, 6.75 by 2. 3.375 is the value that we want to enter for each run. For fittings and valves that don't have a pipe make-in, the takeout value and the distance to outlet value will be equal. For valves that have a pipe make-in, like a threaded check valve, this takeout value and this distance to outlet value will be different. Distance to outlet is the distance from the center point of that fitting to the face of the fitting, where the takeout would be the empty space from the pipe make-in to the center of the fitting. Does that make sense? $3.375.
Yes. Sorry, I was muted. Yes, it does make sense.
No worries, no worries. So 3 3/8, 3 3/8, 3.375, 3.375. I just like to type it in for the fun of it, even though it was already set to 3 3/8. Now I'm going to double check on the 12-inch. 12-inch has an end-to-end dimension of 21 inches. So that's going to be 11 and a half. No, 10 and a half, 10 and a half. Come on, Hauser, do your math right. 10 and a half. Just double check. 10 and a half. Okay, so this is already set. It looks like most of these dimensions are appropriate for this valve that we just cloned. I'm going to just double check that the 10-inch should have an 18-inch takeout. End-to-end takeout, 18, yep, 14, so then the 8-inch I should have 7 and 7. This is a little off. Okay, so the 8-inch, I want to adjust this to be exactly 7 inches and 7 inches. Whoops, 7, 7, 7. Okay, now I'm not going to bother with the 6 and 4 and 3. but I just want to show you an example of this 8-inch and the 10-inch and the 12-inch and how the values here, this data translates into the drawing. Let me just double check. I think we got somebody that wants to join in here. Okay, so when I'm done with this question, we'll jump to Justin if he's got a question, then after that we'll jump to Matt. Okay, so now I've got these values set. I can click done, done. Now the same check valve that I've already got in the drawing, I can change this to Tyco, verify that the finish is correct. That's the value that I set. That's the model that I set, and I'm going to change this to 8-inch. And I want to verify that that 8-inch has a 21-inch total end-to-end takeout. So I should, wait, sorry, what was that? It wasn't 21, that was the 12-inch. What did we adjust that to? 14. A total takeout end-to-end of 14 inches. So I'll change that to 8-inch, hit OK. It's red. The color is appropriate based on the settings that I established during this part creation. And now I can verify in the valve fitting tab that the takeout from one end is 7 inches. Takeout from the center to the other end is 7 inches. And at this point, I could even drop some couplings in here so that I've got something to snap a dimension to and verify that I've got a total end-to-end dimension for my custom created check valve part of 14 inches.